Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Bonfire Nexus. Today, Alex is actually out for a little bit. He might not be here next episode. So we're joined by our local MMO enthusiast, Lili.
Yeah,
What
hi.
an intro.
It is accurate though.
And of course, the loser himself, Daniel.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, you got me.
Today we're gonna be talking about MMOs, just discussing them, what we like, what we don't like about each one, why we play certain ones over others, stuff like that. But before we get into that, you can find us at the Bonfire Nexus on any social media, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, stuff like that. And you can email us at thebonfirenexus@gmail.com. If you have any questions, any topics you would like for us to discuss, or any comments, anything like that. But before we get into the main topic, Lili, what have you been playing recently?
Mostly World of Warcraft. My Mythic Plus push group, we were trying to get 3,000 IO, which would put us in the top. It changes sometimes, but it's like top 1 to top 5%. It's always top 5% at least, top 5% of WoW players. And we did get that. So we've been kind of like floundering, like what do we do now? And we all made alts and just started leveling those. And I was like, all right, what if we just like do 3K again on a different character? And I don't think they like that idea because it takes a long time. But I was like, why not though? Why not though? Because I'm very goal oriented, and I think that's why I play so many MMOs. Like, there's always a goal to go for,
Yeah.
and so like I need something to go for.
Yeah.
But I've also been playing a lot of Half Sword. Half Sword is really fun. I had to take a little break from it for a couple of days because my wrist started hurting a lot.
Jesus.
It's when you get into like the later stages, you have to hit them so many times. Because they have all this armor, right? So you just keep bashing them and keep bashing them and keep bashing them, and they just don't give up. And you keep bashing them.
What's a half sword?
Half Sword is it's like this medieval battle arena simulator. It's like uses a lot of physics. It's like one of those physics heavy games, where it's always like these are always been funky, and they're gonna remain funky for probably another like 10 years. Where sometimes you hit someone in the head with a hammer, but it like is slightly off the edge. So nothing happens, and you're like, well, if I got hit in the head with a hammer like that, I would be unconscious on the floor.
Yeah.
But, it's a video game, so they can't do everything perfectly. But Half Sword is really fun. It's only a demo, but it is free on Steam, and it's like 6 gigs, so there's like no reason not to install it and try it. There's a couple of game modes even in it. There's a gauntlet where you fight up in the ranks, and you get like different weapon options and armor options as you rank up, as you kill the bosses. There's Abyss, which is like a roguelike. You go down and then you grab garbage and you try to kill people with it and see how long you can go. My high score on Abyss so far is 500, which is not very good. And then there's the free mode where you just get to pick a tier, and then you can do some games with that. I think it's nice to practice with certain things, but it's not as fun because there's not, if you die, it's like, well, I come back. You don't have to restart like when you're in gauntlet mode.
Yeah, watching you play that game, like when you stream on our Discord, it's really funny.
The brutal violence, like just the level of violence is so.
The physics too is really
Yeah.
funny, like the ragdolling.
Yeah.
It's really.
Were you
really
there?
adds to it.
Were you there when I stabbed the greatsword boss with a pitchfork, and it he just catapulted into the air?
No,
Oh, I saw
didn't.
That was hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, I stabbed him, and it just yanked my pitchfork out of my hand, and he just flew in the air, did like 3 circles, and then landed on the ground. And I was like, he's probably fine. Something happened with him. I've also started to get back into Heroes of the Storm a little bit. I was getting a real big MOBA itch, but League is poison, so I played Heroes of the Storm a little bit.
Everybody's been getting back into League, and I'm like, I don't want to reinstall Vanguard. man.
No,
I've
it's
had a lot
not
of
worth
issues
it.
with Vanguard.
Brawl
so-
is kind of fun. I played that with Andy a couple
I
times.
like Arena too.
Arena, yeah, but Arena's already gone.
Yeah,
It's hard.
I mean, those are the only things that have been like where I'm just like,
Yeah.
dang, should I go
Like, you
back
think about it, because Arena is fun,
Yeah,
but
and it's like I do like League. I just
Mhm.
like fallen off over the years. I feel like they've made it worse, and that's like a podcast episode within itself.
Yeah.
Just a whole discussion of League and our thoughts and stuff. But
because I've played since
I'm
season
not like
1.
other people who like hate it.
Yeah,
I like it. It's just obviously like I take breaks and stuff, but
right.
ever since they've introduced Vanguard, I've had issues playing other games
Yeah,
sometimes
that's
where
the
it'll
big
crash and then I'll look at the Windows logs
And it's
and it's Vanguard. And I'm like, why is Vanguard like I get like it runs when you start the PC.
Yeah.
You can disable that.
Mhm.
But I've disabled it before, try to play game and still get like an error related to Vanguard and I'm like I don't know.
Yeah, we were doing.
It's really poorly made.
Yeah.
It stops me from playing Valorant too because I do like Valorant a lot
Right.
too. But it's just like I'm not gonna install this on my PC.
Yeah, we were doing.
I know they were talking about making a non-kernel version, but we'll see.
It's been a while since we said that. I remember I had installed Vanguard.
Yeah.
I didn't mind having it until we were doing M4S prog when we were progging Wicked Thunder, and then I kept crashing while we were in party, and I was like, I'm sick of this shit. Like, I can't deal with this anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
my computer crashing or some Vanguard fucking it up because it's taking too much resource is one thing, but in the middle of raid progression, no. Like, the program's getting uninstalled.
Yeah, exactly.
And that'll be
And
a
it's like
segue.
League and Valorant, or literally every other game I have on my computer.
Yeah.
Like as much as I like League, and it
Yeah.
was my go-to like comfort game, where I just like if I don't have anything else I'm playing League.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was just that was enough. But
It's crazy how that, because I mean, I think we all did the same thing for a long time. Whereas, like, I don't really want to do
Yeah.
anything else, so I guess I'll play some League.
Yeah.
And now it's
Yeah,
like, I
exactly.
don't want to do this
League-
anymore.
I think League was a great way to just fill in the time that you literally had nothing else to do.
Yeah.
So I mean, I played a lot of it back in the day, but now that I have more things to do, like,
yeah.
I don't know. I remember like always feeling this sense of like, there's something wrong about me sitting here for 40 minutes playing one match and then playing 5 matches a day or something. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And then I think just as we've gotten older, it's kind of come to the point where it's like, that's a lot of time. Like, that's a lot of time I could be doing literally anything else. So that's how I feel. Like,
I
after
think
I'm
that's
done,
why they've been changing the game a lot.
Yeah.
Where it's like the average game time is around 30 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
Which means like the games have to go faster and they're a lot more feast or famine,
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
So it's like hit or miss, but yeah, I get you. It is a lot of time to sink in where over the course of the day you spend 6 hours playing League and it's only like 5, maybe 6 matches.
Yeah, you know what
Yeah.
you can do
Stuff
in
like
6
that.
hours, dude? Like, I'm never happy about
Exactly,
playing 5
yeah.
matches of League. Like, I'm never
Right.
like, what a productive day.
I
Yeah, like,
I
even
used
just
I started getting really into WoW because I could do a dungeon as like my break when I was studying for graduate school.
Mm. Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
can I can study for half an hour. A dungeon takes about half an hour, and I can do that on and off, and like it makes sense. And also, after a dungeon, I'm probably not gonna want to like throw something in my room. Like, a dungeon may go badly, but I mean, even when I was like grinding, IO, in during those times, a dungeon isn't gonna make me that upset. A game
Yeah.
like it's something about League that makes you so like physically angry that you punch a wall.
It's the community.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you're like,
Well,
why did I do that? I'm
One
an
thing
adult.
when I remember when I went through my StarCraft stint back in like season 7 of League, I was like really into StarCraft because I think the reason that I pinpointed it down, it's just like I hate to be that guy, but it kind of is your teammates. But it's the sense that
Yeah.
you know that like you lost on your own volition. Because when I was climbing StarCraft, I think I got to plat. I every single time I fucked up, yeah, there was a little bit of griefing, like, oh, that unit is broken. But for the most part, I was like, I misplayed that. Like it was
Yeah.
me. There's nobody else to blame. So I knew like exactly what I did wrong. Whereas in League, there's always that beautiful thing of you have like a 100 CS lead in mid lane, and then your bot lane is 0 and 16, and it's only
Right.
4 minutes
Yeah.
into the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
you're
you're
like, what
just
can
like,
I
well,
do?
it's over. Yeah, so now I have to stay here for
Yeah.
15 minutes, knowing that I'm gonna lose the game and being able to do nothing about it. So
Yeah, and right before I
And
got
who wants to
back
play
into...
bot lane?
Oh my
Yeah.
god, yeah. Because that's the other thing, right? If you don't play like jungle or you don't play support, your queue times can be really long.
Yeah, I play jungle, so
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're
I'm a
if,
mid
yeah,
lane.
and I
thing,
play. I mean,
so.
I kind of played everything, but I think I always had the most success in top lane. But top lane is worthless and doesn't matter to the game.
Yeah, there's
So
just a
it's
lot
like,
of things.
what's the
So,
point of this?
about.
So how's Heroes of the Storm been since, like have they changed anything since
They've
I've
done a
last played and
couple
stuff?
of like balance updates. They don't really change. The meta hasn't changed in like 6 years. Despite the balance updates, because the champions that are
Yeah.
really strong,
Just
they
fundamentally
just don't really know what to
OP.
do, or they just don't care. Like when I play ranked, Joanna is banned every single game. And it's because Joanna is basically indestructible.
Nice.
If I've played, like there was a time where I was grinding and I was like, maybe I can try and get back into like diamond at least, because I was masters long ago. But whenever Joanna got through, I auto locked it. Like I didn't think about the rest of the team. Like usually when I play Here's the Storm, I just fill because I can play almost every single champion in that game like pretty decently to like an okay degree. But Joanna is just like you can't die if you can hit your buttons.
Nice.
It is not okay. It is not. There's
Yeah.
that champion needs like there's like fundamental aspects of Joanna, like her first talents, all of those need to be nerfed into the ground, because the one she can pick one where you hit a button and it heals you for 20% of your HP over 5 seconds, but every 10 regen globes that you get increases that heal by 5%. So if you
she's
know
the
how to play the
Crusader
game,
from Diablo, right?
yes, yeah, she's
Okay.
based on the Crusader from Diablo. So if you know how to play the game in Heroes of the Storm, you rotate a lot. You're constantly rotating in
Okay.
Heroes of the Storm. So you get those regen globes very, very quickly. So it'll be, I mean, games of Heroes of the Storm are faster than League of Legends in general, but around like
Yeah.
the 10-minute mark, like you'll have like 20, 30 regen globes, which means you're regenerating 35% of your health every like 45 seconds. You're going to have that every major fight. Like every objective, you can have it up. And then you have Joanna's shield, which you can also reduce the cooldown of. You can shield twice almost in particularly long fights, and that shield is like 2k HP of your like 3k. And it makes you
Yeah.
unstoppable the whole time you have the shield. Joanna needs like
That's funny.
complete nerfs. Like
Yeah.
or I mean, I think they're okay with the 100% pick ban rate that she has. Because the other thing with Joanna is that most of the counter tanks in the game are auto attack based, and Joanna's E is a blind. So, like the best anti tanks in the game are like Tychus, who is an auto attack base, because his trait is that he can activate and he'll deal % max HP damage on his auto attacks. But if you're blinded, you do no damage. So
That's
yeah.
funny.
And some of the other best anti-tanks, they're all auto attack based. Like Vala has % max HP damage. Sergeant Hammer has % max HP damage. But all these are auto attacks. So if you're blinded, you don't do anything. So that's why Joanna is so busted. That's why she's banned every single game. But I mostly just
Dan,
play
you
ARAMs.
played-
So
You played HOTS, right, Dan?
I was the fucking precursor to HOTS. I remember like when HOTS first came out, I was telling everyone about it. And then everyone was like, "No, Dan, you're wrong," and cringe. And then, like a year after, everyone hopped on that train, and I was like, "Mm-hmm, yeah."
I mean,
but I didn't.
I played it for a couple days
I didn't
before
play-
going back to League.
Yeah, I didn't
get
play it
into
for
like that.
very long. But there was a
No.
time when I played it, like when it first came out, dude. Because that's when I was also into StarCraft. So
yeah,
Mhm.
nobody else really got into it as much as I did. I mean, I got really
yeah, for
into it.
sure. Yeah, no, there was just a period where the entire
It was
group
like
got
a
into
couple
it.
of days. Everyone was like, "This is kind of fun. Maybe I'll keep doing this." And then the great Nemesis came in and ruined our lives.
But Silas, though.
I mean, yeah, there is no equivalent. There is no equivalent in Heroes of the Storm.
All
Unfortunately.
right. Dan,
Yeah.
what have you been playing?
Well, besides the
Just trench
traditional,
crusading it up.
Yeah, besides that, I've been playing like Kill Team a lot, which is like the Warhammer equivalent of it, and it's pretty fun. And then I found a local group. How do I say this without doxing? I found a group. I found a group in a nearby city, and whatchamacallit, they play like competitive 40K, like full scale. So I met some cool people, and they were like, hey, we have like a tournament coming up in September. If you want to join, like I think it's an RTT, which is like a regional tournament. But like that'll be the start. And then they said that they're willing to scout me to see if I become part of a competitive team. So I was like,
That's
okay, that sounds pretty sick. So then but there's like a teams tournament happening, I think next week. So I went into their Discord and I was like, hey, good luck on teams. And then everyone was like, it was the AdMech channel specifically. And everyone in that channel was like, holy shit, you live in X? And I was like,
No.
So I think when I show up next time and they're like, are you Omni? I'm going to be like, no, who's that guy? He sounds handsome.
Sounds
yeah, I don't know if I really want to be associated in person just yet. So
yeah.
But yeah, it was cool that like a sizable amount of people actually know who I am before I even meet them. So that's pretty sick. I mean, I guess that shows some of growth there. So we'll see if we start. Now that I'm like back on a day shift schedule, I'll luckily be able to attend more of those things. So I'll probably be playing a lot more tabletop, which is great. But lately, I've been playing a lot of Darkest Dungeon again. It was a game that I was addicted to when it first came out, and then I kind of dropped it for a little bit because the game came out with like a couple of like the key characters missing from the first game, which is fine. I think the second game did fine on launch. But they released this new mode called Kingdoms, and it's kind of like I don't know, the best way I could describe it is kind of like a smaller scale Total War campaign where you don't have like resources that you're like building or anything like that, or like army mustering, but the traditional sense of like you have 4 characters or caravanning around is still a thing, but instead of like going in a linear direction to where you're trying to make it to the end level of the mountain, you are moving across a land, and there's consistent sieges, right? So like you can pick certain tribes. I think there's only 2 out right now, but they'll be like the Beastman clan, right? And you'll be like walking around with this group of heroes, and you'll get to this place that they're sieging. And then from there, you can swap out your heroes. So it's not so much like a roguelike. It's more about like stationing your guys in different settlements. And when you get to those settlements, you can swap them out. So you're never stuck to the same 4 party members for one run. You have everyone available to you, but they might be in different areas of the map. And then if your settlement gets besieged, much like Warhammer, you have like a garrison that you can build, and you can try to fight them off. But a lot of the aspects still stay the same, like permadeath and stuff, or like upgrading your heroes. It's a really refreshing twist in the game if you kind of got tired of the whole linear try to make it to the mountain, die, try to make it to the mountain again, die, right? This one's more like go to settlement and try to like manage where you're moving your characters to make sure that you're not like that you're able to handle all the sieges at the same time. And there's a really cool mechanic called fatigue where the more your hero fights, the more of your max health you lose. So you're incentivized to swap out all the time. But sometimes like I'm still learning. I didn't know that you can actually move the characters that are garrisoned. So I was like, dude, my characters are at 50% fatigue. I'm trying to get to this one settlement, but they're sieging over there. Like it's a lot to think about, and I think it's a really nice formula to have a little bit of a tactical stress on top of the already stress that you have in playing Darkest Dungeon, because that game is fucking brutal. So yeah, I've been hooked, man. Like it's so much fun to just like not have to bash my head into the wall anymore with trying to get to the end game boss, or like or trying to cheese it, because you can't really tell what's gonna happen. And like there's incentives to have like different paths, like resting at an inn versus resting at a campfire. I think you can kind of garner what does what. There's like situations like, oh, there's more chances of being raided today because there's like movement of the Beastman tribe or something like that. I don't know. It's super, super cool. It keeps the gameplay that everyone likes about Darkest Dungeon while adding an entirely new layer of like strategic movement to it, much like the overworld of Total Warhammer. I think is the best I could probably relate it to. But it doesn't overcomplicate it with like, say you're playing Empire and it's like, oh, you need to have taxes and your settlement needs to like you and shit. No, it's none of that. You just upgrade your settlement, go about and try to survive as long as you can. I don't think it has a conclusive end. I haven't gotten that far yet, but I think it's kind of like Warhammer. Like there comes a point where you're either too fucked or you're already ruling the world that you're just kind of like, yeah, I think we'll call it here. You know what I mean? Like I had a kingdom going on, and I think I lost an entire party of 4, and then from then on it just gave me one character, and I was trying to make it to the next camp, and then I just kept dying, and I was like, I think this run is done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's just a real refreshing way to play that game again, which is awesome because it's probably one of my favorite franchises, considering like the art direction and the combat style. I think that game is fucking incredible. I think more people should play it. I think it's one of the best turn-based combat games we have. I can't think of many that's come out recently that are as good as Darkest Dungeon. I don't know if you guys play much turn-based, but I mean, like, there was that one game, Metaphor. I know a lot of people liked it. I guess a lot of people are liking what's the name of this game? Expedition 33
Expedition.
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obscura.
Yeah. I don't know if that game is going to continue to have its hype. It looks good. I can't speak for it, but
Obscura, not Obscura. My bad.
But I don't know if it's going to be one of those turn-based games like Metaphor where it's like hype for like a week and then it dies out. You know what I mean? I feel like Darkest Dungeon is distinct enough to where it has its own reputation to stand on. You know what I mean?
Games like that are like it's pretty much like a JRPG. So it's like turn-based, story-based, there's a story and stuff, and most of the time you're not really going to have a reason to go back immediately and play. I know I haven't played the game, but from what I've read and stuff, it's like Final Fantasy and Persona, where there's a lot of like side content and stuff to do. Like there's a lot of it. Combat's pretty fun, but compared to something like Darkest Dungeon, which is kind of almost like roguelike-esque, right?
Yeah, the second one specific, yeah.
I would say it's not as replayable as something like that, So
yeah.
But I would not be surprised if that game, from the way it's talked about, is going to be in Game of the Year conversations later in the year.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, I think so. I just think that, like, when it comes to turn-based games, it can be kind of hard to distinguish yourself from another. Like, there's that one meme of, like, if you've played one, you've played all, basically. And that holds true to some regard, but I think that Darkest Dungeon's mechanics and aesthetic is something wholly unique to that game, which is why I keep going back to it. Because I love turn-based games, man. I mean, I grew up playing tactics and shit. But, like... and like a Mario Superstar Saga and shit like that. But like, I think that Darkest Dungeon, like the stress system in particular, is one of the coolest systems in that game. Because it's just, I think it's funny how a system of stress is also stressful to you. Like I have more worry about my characters melting down than I do about them going to 1 HP. Like, I'm always just kind of like, fuck. That game does everything to go against you, and I love that. I love, like, basically punching myself in the nuts when I play that game. So, yeah, I love games that have, like, just ridiculous amounts of difficulty, but it's absolutely doable. Like the Dark Souls kind of hard but fair philosophy. I really appreciate that in a lot of games. So the more difficult, the better, and Darkest Dungeon is just like, let's basically put you through the ringer and have you suffer for 20 minutes and then call it fun. At least it's like fun suffering, unlike League, where once you get
is it fun though?
Yeah, once the Aurelia kind of like teabags you for the 16th time, you're not having fun anymore. But with Darkest Dungeon, I'm always like, all right, run it back, like we gotta get in there. So
yeah, like the FromSoft games. Like you said.
Yeah, like the FromSoft games.
Go back and buy.
You just kind of like, I know that this is possible. I just have to do something different. Whether that's going to level or whether that's maybe not getting greedy with some of your attacks. Darkest Dungeon is kind of the same way. It's a lot of management. I love seeing people that are new to the franchise play it too, because they either go one of two ways, much like the Dark Souls games. You either think it's bullshit or you get completely invested. And then I love how you can slowly figure out systems too. Because again, the game has a lot of things you have to consider. And at first you're just like, oh, who cares about stress? It doesn't kill me. And then you realize that stress is way more dangerous than losing HP. You know what I mean? Because it can fuck up your run in the long run. things like that. When you slowly start figuring stuff out, I think is awesome.
Okay.
But that's it. That's all I've been
Anything
playing.
else you want to talk about? That's it.
I mean, what
Yeah.
have you been doing? I mean, you've
Yeah.
been playing fucking, what's the name of this stupid game? Rematch. I'm surprised you got as hooked as you did.
It's not stupid. First of all. Second of all, is it a surprise? I liked PSO and I
Yeah.
love soccer.
Mhm.
Like I'm obsessed with soccer, so
Yeah, but
I-
you're not
well,
one for
I-
you're
I've
not
been
one for
playing a
gimmicky
couple things.
games too much. My understanding is that it's kind of gimmicky.
It's not really gimmicky.
Is it-
I don't think it's gimmicky.
Is it more like FIFA than it is like a silly gang beast type
No.
of game?
No, it's like
No, it's not. It's not Gang Beasts at all. So I'll go ahead and describe it. But before I get into that, I will just shout out something else. I have been playing Tainted Grail: The Fall of Avalon.
Oh yeah.
Which is like a indie type-ish. I don't know if it's exactly indie, but I know it's the developer's first game. I'm pretty sure that they've made.
Mm-hmm.
And it's based off of a tabletop game. And it's like it's a Skyrim like based off of like Arthurian lore, but like in a dark fantasy setting. And everything there is like very dark. I really like the atmosphere. It's been fun so far. I haven't gotten super far into it. I think I'm like 13-ish hours, no, 10 hours into it. So I'm not going to go into it like right now, but I just want to shout out that I've been playing it. And if you like Skyrim, that I would recommend it. It's cool. Definitely been enjoying that. But like Daniel alluded to, I have been playing Rematch over Elden Ring Night Rain recently, because it's in beta.
Oh, that came out
and
yesterday,
it's more of, like,
right?
a time thing. Night Rain came out 3-4 days ago, something like that.
Mm.
It came out Thursday on Eastern time, yeah. So I think that's like 4 or 3 days ago. But yeah, I've been playing Rematch. I really liked this this game called PSO, Professional Soccer Online, and it's just like this shitty little, cheap game that, I looked at it and I was like, oh, I thought it was fun. So I, grabbed it, asked a couple of my friends to grab it that I know like playing like multiplayer games or that I know like soccer. And we just played it, and it's like, it was surprisingly very like, it was janky, but it was very skill intensive. So like you have to like dribble the ball manually. It's not like FIFA where you have the ball and you just move. You have to like individually press every time you would hit the ball.
Jesus Christ.
Like to dribble.
So
and
like
everything.
GTA running.
It was yes, but way more. I would say more janky, and also like when you're trying to like have people not take the ball from you, it's a lot more. It's a lot harder.
Yeah.
So it was very manually, surprisingly very fun, and playing online, like I saw like the type of things you could do with that game, which was like, holy shit, like people are really into this game. It didn't have like a super huge, I guess, player base, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. So we played that for a while. I have like 30 hours on it. It was some of the funnest nights I've ever played online, where we just run customs between like 6 and 8 of us. It was a blast. So when we saw that, like I guess the trailer, I think it was in the Game Awards for Rematch, and basically very similar, where you just control your one player, and it's soccer, like I guess short team, small team soccer and everything, but it's made by the people who did Sifu. And they kind of took like kind of like a Shaolin soccer thing to it, where a lot of the, I guess the moves and not skill moves, but like a lot of the shots and stuff you can take. Your guys like doing flips and during volleys to like shoot it in, stuff like that, which is very fun. But it's similar to PSO, where you're like handling your character. And even though you don't have to like dribble for each, like, I guess dribble you're taking, you don't have to dribble manually. A lot of the stuff is manual. Like the passing is very manual. Shooting, I really like the shooting system, where you have like a circle when you're going to shoot, and you aim that with the right stick. And then you can also like, add like finesse to it. So like in soccer, if you kick the ball on like towards the left at an angle, with your like right foot, the ball is going to curve to the right because of the way physics works. So you can kind of add that to that in the game. You can add like a curve or like a dip. If you're gonna shoot up, you can have it dip down, which is really cool. And I was like, when I first saw how it played, I was like, okay, so it's cool, but it's not gonna be as intense or demanding as PSO. And I'm like, oh, it's probably gonna be high scoring games and everything. Oh my god, I could not be more wrong. It's basically a better PSO, like a polished PSO, without a lot of the jank. There is still jank. The servers are not like exactly the best. That's probably why they're doing another. I saw that they're doing another day, an extra day on the beta, probably because they made some changes to the servers and maybe hopefully put in some hot fixes to see how those go. But there was a lot of weird issues, a lot of crashing. Not just me, but online I've read a lot of stuff, and like the people I've been playing with have been crashing, and most of it has been like server related. So there's a lot of jank to it right now. Hopefully they iron it out before the game comes out. We'll see. But yeah, it's been very addictive. And I'm glad I have some friends who are really into it too. Like literally the night before, because I think it was like the beta was ending at like 8 a.m. The next day. And the night before, a couple of friends and I stayed up until like 5. It's like something like 5, 6 a.m. just fucking playing customs and online and stuff. It's been addictive, man. It's really, really fun, especially when you have like friends to play with and have a full team of 5v5 to go play ranked online.
Yeah.
Like, like the tactics, it imitates soccer in a very good way because, like, if you know how to play soccer and tactics like triangles, boxes, stuff like that, and you know how to like run the channels, your movement, like how you would do in real life, you can imitate that in the game, and like, it's very effective, which I really like, which is cool. So I've always liked, like, I think it was called Pro Clubs in FIFA, which was like that, where you only control the one character, and then you'd get a full team of 11 on 11 online. But I think EA has since killed that game mode. But I used to play that a lot when I was younger. I think back in like FIFA 12 and stuff, if I'm not wrong, they used to have that and everything, and I used to play that a lot. And then they removed it, and like the only thing I play now on, if I do get a FIFA, because I get one like maybe every 3 or 4 years, because that's the only time I ever notice any type of changes. Like I just play career mode and just act like play a manager mode and stuff. But so rematch has been like really scratching that like soccer itch, because I love watching soccer. I'm a really big Chelsea fan. Love watching European soccer, international, anything. So it's been cool to finally get a game that's like kind of accessible / casual enough, where it kind of makes soccer a lot more entertaining for people who aren't into soccer.
Yeah.
So people who aren't into soccer can play it and still really enjoy it. But then it's cool and deep enough where if you're playing as a team, you definitely have to, like, no, I don't want to say have to. I guess once you start getting to higher ranks, you do have to start paying attention to like tactics, like how you would in a real soccer game. And because of how skill intensive the game is, it's very deep to actually get good at it. Like, I feel like I'm good at like everything but shooting. Like, I'm good at defending. Very good at passing. Goalkeeping, I would say I'm a troll. Goalkeeping, I'm a bad goalie. But yeah, like everything else besides shooting, when I'm like on the field, I'm good at. But yeah, it's stuff like that where it's just like I could get better at dribbling and stuff. Like you could always get like practice and get better at shooting. One thing I will call out is like they're I guess like practice drills. It's like it's really annoying the way it's set up. So they have these drills where you can practice like certain skills like passing, dribbling, shooting, defending, stuff like that. But once you're done with the drill, like there's no option to retry immediately or restart the drill. You have to go back to the main menu and then go back into the drill, which is like really, really dumb. But yeah, no, definitely recommend that game if you liked something like Rocket League too. It's very similar to Rocket League, but with real soccer instead of with cars. And I love Rocket League, but yeah. So if you like something like Rocket League, this game I would definitely recommend it. If you like soccer, I'd recommend it. It's really cool, really fun. But that's what I've been playing recently. I'm hopefully not hopefully, I'm gonna be playing Elden Ring soon, because I mean, FromSoft games are, some of my favorite games, and I'm excited to play that game. But I just been, trying to play Rematch before the beta goes away, because I know once Rematch is over, all I'm gonna be playing is Elden Ring and Tainted Grail. So
Right.
Yeah.
but yeah, one thing I do wanna, I guess that's kind of related, in a sense, that I just want to hear your guys' thoughts on before we get into the MMO talk, since we have a little bit of time. How are you guys liking the Final Fantasy Magic set so far?
Oh,
Now that we have full spoilers and everything.
I mean, there's a lot of cards that. What the hell? I just tried to open Mythic Spoiler and it won't open it. Okay. Well,
That's funny.
That's fine. I was gonna open it and like look at cards, but a lot of the cards from Final Fantasy, and one of the bigger significance, because I pay attention to Magic on like the grand scale, because a lot of people, and especially in the Discord that we're in, are just Commander players, which is fine, just perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But I pay attention to all formats, and Final Fantasy is standard legal, which means it's also modern legal, which means it's also etc.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of cards in it that are being printed that I am like legitimately shocked by. Like their power is kind of crazy. Like Dark Confidant is being printed into standard, which is
I don't think it's gonna be good in standard, in my opinion.
How is 2 mana 2/1 draw card every turn like bad
The fact that
in
you're
standard, though?
losing life for it, though,
Yeah.
prowess and mono red is definitely gonna punish you for it.
That's
Like,
true. But you can play
right now the
3 in
format's
Board Mount, right?
so fast that it's like, yeah, I guess you could play it in sideboard. It wouldn't be bad in sideboard, but
sideboard like
yeah,
into control
you
or
have to
mid-range mirrors
sideboard
is
it.
basically unbeatable. I mean, that's the point
Yeah.
of Dark Confidant, right? But I mean,
Mhm.
modern sped up
Yeah.
and Bob is worthless in modern too, so maybe.
Yeah,
But I mean,
like-
I'm still surprised. But also, the other card that I'm really surprised by is the strictly better Stoneforge Mystic. In Midra, or no, Cloud Midgard
Cloud,
something.
yeah.
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 Yeah, that is white Stoneforge Mystic with upside, and it's kind of crazy. Hold on, I want to read exact text before I like give my full.
He
What is it?
tutors
Cloud
for
Midgard.
a card, but then he doubles. He basically is a Panharmonicon for equipment
For
attached
equipment,
to him.
yeah. So that means you get double Sophie triggers. You get double every other sword triggers. You get double all of that stuff. I mean, Cauldron Complete would also trigger twice, but Cauldron Complete also kind of sucks now.
Yeah.
In most formats. But Cryptic Coat. Cryptic Coat is really big in these decks that are still trying to make Stoneforge Mystic a good card. Because it's so insane. But that will trigger twice as well, right? It will manifest twice. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it is not strictly better in every way, right? Because it is legendary. So you can't Stoneforge Mystic into Stoneforge Mystic like you used to be able to. And Stoneforge Mystic also has the ability to put in weapons from your hand to the board. But with the reduced importance of living weapon in the Stoneforge Mystic packages, most of it is like Cryptic Coat. Maul the Skyclave sometimes, Shadow Spears in your Lava Spur boots. These are the types of equipments that are being played. The putting it from the hand doesn't matter as much anymore. The double triggers is nice though, because does it really matter sometimes it matters. Like when I play D&T, sometimes the one less mana to put Sword of the Fire and Ice into board is nice, but most of the time, doesn't really matter.
I'm like curious to see how this affects standard.
Yeah.
I know standard's in a very powerful spot right now, especially with Corey Steelcutter,
right,
rising to prominence right now. I figured that card was going to be insane, but it's super fucking fast right now, and so like I've legitimately seen games where games are ending turn 3 or 4, which is crazy for standard. That's like modern speed, basically.
That is modern speed.
So, and I know Corey Steelcutter's been doing good in modern recently too, right?
Yes. Prowess is the second best deck right now, second most popular deck on MTG Goldfish for modern.
Yeah.
And Corey Steelcutter
card
is
just
pretty much the whole deck.
man.
I mean, because the old weakness of Prowess, right, was you kill the creatures and they don't do anything anymore. Exactly. But now you have Corey Steelcutter and you can do whatever you want.
Exactly. I did see on the topic of Corey Steelcutter, I saw this like tweet was like, notice how Corey Steelcutter and the equipment for Final Fantasy that has job select, they both make, you know, like ones that you attach the equipment on, but notice how Prowess doesn't have job select, and that's a reference to that Prowess players don't have jobs.
This is true.
So,
it is a cheap
good.
deck. It is a cheap deck.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been cool. I as somebody who really likes the franchise, I've been really happy to see what they've done. I do think that, and this is probably very nitpicky, but I feel it's tough because games like Final Fantasy 6, 7, 14 are always going to be like, those are like the biggest, and 10 too, to an extent, are the biggest games in the franchise. And so those are going to have more representation. But man, it's so, I felt like it was way too skewed how many cards some of the like games got. Like 7 and 14 both got commander decks, right?
Yeah.
So those are all decks focused on those games. And they still, for the most part, in the main set had more representation than other games in the main set. And it's like, isn't part of the point of giving them their own commander decks to, like, you know, not completely take over the set like that? But
right.
14 and had ended up having the most card, I guess, card representation in total. And I was like, man, it for me it was just sad, like things like from those games taking up like rare and mythic slots that could have been used on like other characters or other things from those games that got relegated to the uncommon zone, which for me made me a little sad, where I'm just like, as much as I like, you know, like those games, because I do like 7 and 14 a lot, and we'll be talking about 14. That's like kind of want to bring this up before we go on there. But it was like, man, like X-Death, for example, he's an uncommon. His card is he's not going to be good in draft. I would say he's okay in draft. But it's like, he's such a cool, iconic villain, and he got relegated to draft chaff.
Yeah.
And it's like, that rare slot could have been like, as cool as I think Genova is, and she's a, you know, kind of key important character in the story of Final Fantasy VII with like Sephiroth and stuff. It's like, man, I don't know. It just made me upset, where it's just like, Genova could have been the uncommon because of how much other Final Fantasy VII stuff we've gotten, and X-Death could have been the rare for Golgari. Stuff like that, where it's just like rare slots, uncommon, you know, mythic. Another one that really was mind blowing was the A-tier and Pruin mythic, which is like based off of based off of like a weapon set that you get in Final Fantasy XIV for Paladin, and it's basically like a popular glamour a lot of people really like to use. And it got a mythic slot as an equipment, but the Gunblade, and like probably not the most iconic, because I would say the most iconic is just Squall's regular Gunblade. But they did a Lionheart card, and that's the only Gunblade equipment we got, and it's an uncommon, and it's not that good. But a glamour from Final Fantasy XIV took a mythic slot for an equipment. Not, you know, one of the most iconic Final Fantasy weapons. You know, I would say Buster Sword's definitely number one. And then it's probably a toss up between the Gunblade and Masamune, Sephiroth's Masamune, on what's the second most, like, you know, popular weapon. And it was just so sad seeing, like, you know, like, Cloud got his Buster Sword at Mythic, cool, expected, everybody wants that. Sephiroth got his Masamune at Rare, it's a cool card, expected, everybody wants that. I'm a Paladin main. I love Paladin in Final Fantasy XIV. I'm happy they did a Paladin equipment. Did that have to be a Mythic over the fucking Gunblade? No. Like, you know, it's just like, it's like the some of the choices were just like mind-boggling, where I'm like, man. And the worst part is, so Squall has to do with like recurring permanents from your from your graveyard to the battlefield with mana value 3 or less.
Mhm.
Fucking Lionheart, his Gunblade is fucking 4 mana, so you can't even recur it with Squall. That's crazy, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like it's just like there's a clear like in WotC there was clear favoritism, and it's like
Right.
you're kind of expecting that because of the popularity of some games, right?
Mhm.
Like 7, 14 are and 6 are, and to an extent 10 are gonna get more love than the other games, but like to that point where it's just like you're just like cucking a lot of other things. And like I said, like Gunblade is not exclusive to Final Fantasy VIII.
Mhm.
There's a whole class in Final Fantasy 14 for using a fucking Gunblade.
Mhm.
And by the way, this is before like Dawn Trail came out. They were making this set. They made like pretty much equipment based off of like all the popular classes,
Mhm.
mostly based off of Final Fantasy 14. And 2 of them were missing. And guess which one of the ones were missing?
Gunbreaker.
Yeah. So it's like, do they just fucking hate Gunblades or something? Like,
I guess.
I don't know what it is. And it's just like so weird, man. It was just so weird. Besides that, like besides with like some issues I had with like choices for cards and stuff, and like besides that, I'm really happy with the set, you know, overall. I'm really excited. I'm gonna be I'm gonna try to master set this, get every card, and
Oh god.
yeah, it's gonna be a lot, but I
Yeah.
love Final Fantasy enough that, and I've never master setted something, so I'm like, this is probably gonna be the one I want to master set, unless they do a
fair.
From Software
Right.
set, which that I'm gonna master set for sure. But
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna slowly just try to buy every card and, you know, just own it and everything. So, but yeah, very hyped for that. I already made 2 decks online that I'm testing to see how I want to do. I was hoping I could like do just Bant with Yuna for summons, but the Bant Yuna has to do more with +1/+1 counters. Which I'm like, I kind of want to manipulate lore counters for the summons and stuff
Because it's cooler.
Yeah, and then Terra basically does that. Not manipulate lore counters, but she can like copy, you know, summons, and then also the milling aspect to her is really cool. And I also love Terra. She's a cool character. I just prefer Yuna. But Yuna's still in the deck, the Selesnya one.
Yeah.
But yeah, Terra's at the helm, and I get to play all 5 colors. So then I get to, you know, play with all the summons. So I've only got to play 1 game with that, but the game we played, Lili, it turned out to be pretty solid.
It was pretty cool. I liked it. I mean, I did get locked out of the game, but it was pretty fun.
So
Because I was staring at the board, I'm like, wait.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just cool. And I guess I underestimated how strong they would be.
Yeah.
Where there's a lot of cards where I'm like, should this be in the deck? I don't know. And I was just throwing a lot of summons in there because I love them. And I'm like, you know what, fuck it. I mean, it's like I cannot have, you know, the summon in there. And so I throw it in there, and then they ended up being pretty solid. So I was like, man, even by themselves, I was like surprised with how well, you know, they were playing and stuff. So I'm excited for that. I built a VV deck too, probably like a lot of other people who like to play with powerful cards.
Yeah, I mean,
'cause that card is insane. So that is one card that I could see being built around in like certain formats in Constructed, just because of how nonsensical it is. But maybe, I don't know, we'll see how it goes, because the thing that makes me think that is that you can play something like Monstrous Rage and artificially buff its power for 1 mana. So you get the 3 power from Monstrous Rage, and you get the counter that it gives itself. So that's 4 potential mana you can activate there for 1 red mana, which is crazy. So I would not be surprised if like some type of crazy storm or ramp deck in like standard or modern like occurs based off of VV, you know. So we'll see. But Dan, how do you feel about the set before we get into MMO stuff?
I think the thing is, like, I would be really excited for it because I'm like a 14 simp, but I don't know, man. I've just kind of gotten to the point where I don't follow Magic sets that closely anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I remember, like, I could name off so many cards from, like, Tarkir era, but I can't say the same for Final Fantasy. Like, I can't just name off all the cards that I've seen. The few that I have seen, though, look kind of fucking ridiculous. Like, Kefka looks insane. Kefka actually looks really cool. I think they did pretty well with one thing that I do have a problem with in a lot of Magic sets, which is playing around a certain niche mechanic and that kind of like shoehorning in a commander. Um, so it's one of the reasons why I like to build Theros gods so much, because they give you a passive ability that you get to build your deck around. And I like when I saw Y'shtola, I was like, oh, it's just kind of that. Like you just gain value for playing in a certain way, but not exactly like, cycle tribal or something like that, which I feel like a lot of cards have been doing lately.
Yeah.
Y'shtola looks cool. Kefka looks cool. I don't remember too many. Vivi, I remember being ridiculously busted. I don't know. I like Commander, but I don't really like follow it that much unless it's like the Warhammer set, basically. Like I built 2 decks off of that set. And even then I wasn't like too crazy over it. I've been playing a lot more Magic recently as well, as along with all the other tabletop stuff. But it has been more like in-person kind of casual. Even though the people that I play with are like, playing Bergie and shit. Like they're not they're like bracket 4, I think is the highest, right? They're they're like
5.
Yeah, they're like
that isn't CDH.
Yeah, they're like bracket 4 players through and through. So I'm not like playing with a bunch of little trash casuals, but yeah, I don't know. I looked at a couple of the cards, but I just don't have the same impulse to build it like I do with something like I did when I was playing Skullbriar. So I think I've kind of like relegated myself as like Magic being like a secondary hobby, where it definitely used to be a primary one for me. I think I'm just like totally on the tabletop scene, so where I don't like pay it that much attention to it. But
yeah,
I will say it does look cool. Some of those cards look a little too strong in my opinion.
And pushed. They always do that with Universes Beyond.
I mean,
they
kind of have to.
And I
gotta pay for the licensing rights.
I think it's cool because like a lot of the cards from 14 are there, but I think I probably like I play 14 not for the story, so I kind of don't give a shit about the characters. Like I saw Grahatio was a card, and I was like, that's cool, I guess. Like he's from 14, but I kind of just don't give a shit about him.
He's pretty cool too. I like his card.
Yeah, but like the only one I kind of have some sentiment towards is Y'shtola, simply because she's been there since the beginning of the game. So yeah. I wish they added like well, I guess it's not a 14 set specifically, so maybe I shouldn't wish that they added more side characters of 14. But we'll get into it when we get into 14 MMO. But yeah, like I was extremely the one card that was like I will immediately build a deck if this character is in it and he's good. It was X-Death, and they fucked him up.
Yep.
Yeah, I was so upset about that, dude.
He's so mid.
Yeah, I was,
because it's like even something like Golbez is. I would say Golbez is very interesting. His card.
Yeah,
and I like it a lot. And then something like even like Garland, like that's like it's still an uncommon, but I feel like playable. I feel like X-Death is just so trash. Yeah. Where it's just like,
because I saw Golbez and I was like, if Golbez is this strong, like, oh, X-Death's gonna be fucking incredible, right? I don't know if maybe I hold X-Death in like a higher power level than he actually is, but I was like, Golbez, I think X-Death is cooler than Golbez. I was like, I know God Kefka is like a really big deal, but like Neo X-Death is also a really big deal. Like the man of fucking nothing, basically, like.
Yeah.
I expected so much more out of him, and I was like, great, well, a little fucking black mage is apparently stronger than X-Death, the sorcerer of the void. So here we are, I guess.
Don't you put disrespect on fucking BB's name.
Like it's it's cool. I kind of just like, once I saw that X-Death was bad, I was like, I kind of don't want to look at any more cards.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, it was kind of the same with the Warhammer set. Like, I didn't really look too deep into the Warhammer set. I was like, where's Call? I want Belisario's Call as a commander, and then he was mega garbage, and I was like, all right, I don't really care about this anymore until I eventually came around to playing Abaddon. But like, yeah, like I have my little niches that I want to find, and usually when they're not good, I'm just like, okay, all right, moving on. You know what I mean?
There was 2 things I wanted, or I guess quote 3 things I wanted from the set that I was happy got delivered. Final Fantasy X representation, which it getting its own commander deck was enough for me, and both of the commanders in Yuna and Titus are awesome. And then I wanted summons to be a prominent thing, which they are. Which the fact that I'm prototyping a deck on that says enough.
Yeah.
I love, one of my favorite things is using summons in the games, and I'm really happy that they're represented very well in the set too.
Yeah, like soccer creatures.
And and the third thing was I wanted Bahamut in particular to be good, and man, he's
gross.
awesome.
Yeah,
he's an insane A summon, but then B, he can like slot into my dragon deck. That was one thing I was like, I hope he's good and he's a dragon so I can put him in my dragon deck, and he is, and I'm so happy. So I'm like, I'm so excited for Bahamut. So and I'm probably gonna get the alternate art in Surge foil. I'm gonna fucking splash on this set a lot. But so I was pretty happy with that stuff. Overall, I really like the set. There's just some things like the X Death thing where it's just like leaves a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. Something like Zidane, the main character of Final Fantasy IX, being an uncommon, you know, where it's just like, as much as I like Tifa, she had her own cool ass Naya card in the commander deck. That rare slot, I mean, it's, you know, different colors, but it's like, you know, we could have made space for fucking Zidane to be a rare, right? Like I don't think that's too crazy to say.
I think was Gobez a Demir, right? Yeah. I've been trying to make this deck Silas, Ren, and Amarix work for fucking years, and I think Gobez is going to be a better like slot in. So maybe I'll make a Demir artifacts deck finally. And then Y'shtola is Esper, right? And I don't have an Esper deck, so I thought maybe I'll either make Gobez or Y'shtola. I might dip into Kefka. Emmett Selk looks really cool. Like the Hades side of it.
Yeah, he looks disgusting.
I love Hades. Maybe we'll get into 14 here in a second and why I like him so much. But I don't like Emmett Selk just because he looks like a fucking asshole. Like I hear that he's one of the more interesting characters of 14. I loosely followed 14's story, and I followed most of Shadowbringers up until the end where I kind of got fatigued. And that's when they introduced a lot of Emmett Selk and Amarot and everything. And I was just like, I don't care. Like I don't know why he's a good villain. And I kind of don't. I liked.
He's written very well.
We'll get into it later, but I liked the Sin Eater part of 14's Shadowbringer story more than I cared about yet again the fucking Garlands. You know what I mean? Like, because it feels like it always goes back to fucking Garlemald. But there was another thing. Oh, I have a very big fucking chip on my shoulder because I think with this set, the Japanese RPG, we can see that WotC clearly knows how to draw anime style or hire people that know how to draw anime style. And we have gotten 3 secret layer Mikus that look like absolute trash, dude. What is up with that? Like, Y'shtola's art looks like when they revealed her fucking commander deck, I was like, dog, that looks great. And then I looked over at fucking harmonized Miku and I was like, what is this? Yeah. I don't know what the fuck they did with those secret layers, man. But like, clearly they know how to draw. You know what I mean? Disrespect to the
which is crazy
degree,
because
dude.
I feel like most of the art in the Final Fantasy set was done by Asian artists.
Yeah, and especially
you can see that, like,
and
it's like a lot of the Miku cards weren't done by Asian
and I would
artists,
expect secret layers to have a little bit more, like pizzazz to it, I guess, because you're only getting like 8 cards for a huge markup, and they're very special. So it's like, why didn't they put more effort into, I don't know, hiring more iconic artists or licensing the artwork for that when they can clearly license the artwork for fucking Square Enix? You know what I mean? Like, it's so ridiculous. They clearly have the fucking money and resources to do it. Why would you get some fucking guy that doesn't understand the art style to do that? Like, get somebody from the fucking
I'm
fandom.
just happy because, like, the art looks good. A lot of the alternate art looks amazing.
Incredible.
Like, I know a lot of people don't like the showcase, like, character arts where it's just, like, the plain background with just the character on it. But I feel like that's some of my favorite art. Like, dude, they made both the women and the men look so fucking sexy in those showcases, man. Where I'm just like, I want to be Cloud, and, like, damn, Yuna's hot. Like, so, but like you said, like, and it's partially due to like the anime style art where just like, fuck, man, this art is insanely good. Yeah. Right. So that is surprising. And
what I like,
I knew you were going to talk about it, and I feel like I knew you were going to talk about it because I saw some of this stuff and I'm like, damn, bro, like they really fucked over me when I saw like stuff. And part of it is like, they have like these really iconic artists like Amano and Nomura, who if you guys don't know, is the Amano is like known for Final
Yeah,
Fantasy.
yeah.
Like he has a very unique style. But Nomura is the guy who did the art for Kingdom Hearts and some of the Final Fantasy games.
Mhm.
So they had him on some of the art too, which is like really fucking awesome because I also really like Kingdom Hearts. So it's cool seeing, him being, get to draw a lot of the Final Fantasy cards, which is really fucking cool. So
Yeah.
and they definitely care. They care about the property. It's just
they did a good
some
blend too,
stuff that's
because
just,
like the Y'shtola Commander card, the Esper one, she's not like
Mhm.
traditional anime Japanese style art. Like she looks very like more
Yeah.
on the American comic side, but they still kept a lot of her detail in like how the, I guess, eccentric anime style looks. Like her art style is
Magali Villanueva, bro.
Yeah,
She has a lot of good card art.
yeah, it's incredible. It reminds me of one of my favorite artists. I think her name was Ashley Ortiz or something. She's the one that made
Mhm.
the flip Liliana card where she's on that pile of zombies or whatever. She also made Teysa.
Oh, okay.
She made the Teysa card, the 7-drop Orzhov one.
Yeah.
Yeah, like her art is fucking phenomenal. And it reminded me a lot of her art, like very human but still kind of high fantasy.
Mhm.
And to see Y'shtola from like her derpy little cartoon, pixelated 14 style, to like
Yeah.
basically humanized is really, really cool to see. While they still kept a lot of detail in some of the characters, because Final Fantasy has this thing where it's like cartoony but not, like a lot of their like concept art is super super detailed, which is why you get something like God Kefka, like he goes from like silly little kind of, I guess, Renaissance looking front style to
Jester.
to like his
Yeah.
backside being this like gothic beauty, you know what I mean? Like it's really cool
Yeah.
how they paid homage to like almost every single art style that Final Fantasy incorporates, because they're pretty different. They have like a lot of European influence in them. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's cool.
All right. Well, speaking of Final Fantasy, let's dive into our main topic. Discussing some MMOs here. So, do we want to start with Final Fantasy? Because two of the three of us here are, pretty into Final Fantasy 14. We were in a static together at some point, rating. And that was my first time ever committing to something like that. And it was a lot of fun. I had a blast, even though we didn't prog as much as I would like.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun getting really into it and like diving into that part of Final Fantasy 14. So Dan, because you don't play a lot of MMOs, and historically, I guess in my mind, you've never really connected with an MMO besides Final Fantasy 14, right?
So I guess my history with MMOs was one of my friends tried getting me into WoW when Wrath of the Lich King came out. And
Yeah.
I really wanted to, because I saw I always forget his name. Is Artreus the Lich King?
Arthas, the Lich
yeah,
King.
yeah. Every single time I saw the box art, I was like, this looks cool as shit. Like for me,
yeah, it's Arthas.
yeah, when it comes to fantasy or anything like fantasy sci-fi, I love anything to do with ice. Like I love ice worlds. And Wrath of the Lich King, I saw this like knight. I also really like knight aesthetic, so I saw an ice knight Lich King thing with a cool ass sword called Frostborn, and I was like, I really want to play this game. So my friend showed it to me, and I remember spawning in. I didn't really like the graphics too much, but I mean, this was back in like 2008 or whatever. So it was a little bit more believable back then. But I remember just going around and hitting stuff with a pickaxe, and I was like, this is it. And I'm expected to ask my parents for $14 a month. Like, no, I can't do this. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to be a cool knight, and here I am fucking breaking rocks. Like, this is stupid. And granted,
If I can ask, would you remember what class you picked?
I don't remember, man. I just remember being in this like
Yeah,
this
I
like
didn't I didn't think so.
I remember being in this like frozen valley, and I was like in between this crack, like basically wearing nothing, just cracking rocks open.
Did you pick a dwarf?
No, I was a human. I was like a normal dude. I don't remember how I got that. I just remember jumping around, breaking rocks, and I was like, I can't do that.
What were you doing
I
over
don't.
there?
I
'Cause
don't
know where
know.
you were.
I don't know.
I know where you were, and because you had to walk there,
Probably.
and it's not.
I know because
a short
yeah,
distance.
because I probably loaded into like a normal town, and I was like asking my friend like, when do I get to the ice knight part? When do I become an ice knight? Like that was basically all I was doing. So yeah,
I see what happened to you. Okay, yeah. So back then you had to unlock Death Knight.
Okay.
so you couldn't pick it.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember not enjoying it. So and obviously, you know, being young, like, mind you, I was in a household where I only got a game if I got an A or a B on my report card. So
right.
asking my parents, and I only was able to buy pre-owned games. So God forbid that I asked my parents for $14 or whatever it was every month.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they weren't doing that. So
Yeah.
I ended up playing a couple years later. I got into Terra Online. I don't know if that game is still on anymore, but I
don't know.
I was playing with an ex at the time, and I was playing as something called a Lancer because I like playing tanks, and that's the game that I started kind of like getting into. Like I wasn't like you know, I was progressing through the story. I understood my kit. I was getting to like the main cities and interacting with people, and I was like, okay, I was finally getting like the MMO experience. You know what I mean? But I never got too deep into it because we ended up not, you know, parting ways or whatever. So I kind of just dropped it after that.
Yeah.
Then I ended up playing Guild Wars 2 when it went free, and I really didn't like I love Guild Wars art style, but I hated playing the game because it was like cast fireball for fucking 3 hours straight, and it was like a little pea shooter.
Yeah.
So then, finally,
I also didn't like how there was no like dedicated healer, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like everybody had their own like healing
it's
spells for
the
themselves.
thing about MMOs is that if you've played polished games, they feel very, very janky. Like almost all of them, right? And I don't like kind of like the blocky. I don't know. I don't like that kind of like I already don't like open world games, so I already don't like a game that's like, go over here and pick up 3 pots and then bring them back to me. You know what I mean? So, and it's a miracle that I got into 14, because I got into 14, like 7, 8, probably longer than that now.
It was a long ass time.
Yeah,
ago.
when you recommended that we all get into an MMO, and I wasn't two ways about it. I remember the decisions we made was 14 or ESO. And at the time, I was like, well, I hated Skyrim and I hate open world games, so let's do Final Fantasy. Because I'm like somewhat familiar.
We voted on it.
Yeah.
That was so funny because our friend was like, yeah, whatever we pick, you know, we decided we're all going to play, right?
Yeah.
And then he was like, really wanted to do ESO, but he's like, oh, but I'm open to Final Fantasy, you know? And then, we, you know, after a while of discussing, we landed on Final Fantasy. And then he's like, never mind. It's just like, okay, cool, man.
Yeah, one of the biggest selling aspects was the fact that I really like black mages. Like, I have a thing for like little characters with little eyes that are like masked, like Shy Guys and shit like that. So black mage, like the old VV kind of style black mage, has always called out to me. And I played Final Fantasy Tactics a lot, so I was like, oh, if I could be a black mage, that'd be really cool. And if I could be a red mage, that would be really, really cool. And then I found out that when we got into the game, red mage just got released. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm in. Like, let's do it. And I think for most people that moment was kind of like an off decision, like, yeah, let's just try this game. For me, it was life changing. I think because I ended up playing that game way too much. Like, I still play it. Not so much lately. You know, I kind of hop on and off. But I got into 14 and Shadowbringers, Stormblood, and you know, from then on, I got hooked, man. Like, that was my first MMO, I think, that I like truly played. You know, like, I started doing a lot of dungeons, I started doing a lot of trading, I started talking to people. I don't think I've gotten into an MMO that far in. You know what I mean? Like, I've only ever made it to like the tutorial city, so to speak, in most of the MMOs I've played before 14. So it was a miracle that I got into it, considering that I had bad experiences with MMOs in the past. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think one of the biggest factors was that we had people playing with us. Because a lot of those MMOs, the only reason I got into Terra as much as I did was because my ex was into it at the same time that I was. But like World of Warcraft, I dropped because I only had one friend playing it. And whatchamacallit, Guild Wars, I dropped because I was playing it by myself. Right. So I think that like definitely getting into an MMO with your friend is one of the things that can help, I guess, push you through the monotonous go grab a toad and then bring it back to me for my witch's brew or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so I ended up playing through Stormblood, Shadowbringers. I kind of skipped Endwalker. Like, I didn't skip it, but like I didn't play during the launch, and then I just didn't give a shit, skipped every cutscene type of deal. And then Dawn Chill, I think, was like the first one that I actually sat through and read literally every single piece of it. Which I don't know. I thought Dawn Chill was good. I thought it was alright. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I don't know. I feel like
I enjoyed it.
I feel like you can. People were saying that like it was weird, the criticism of it, because they were saying, okay, so like Stormblood was like world-ending threat, and then Shadowbringers was like world-ending threat in another dimension, and then like Endwalker was like the galaxy-ending threat. And then they were like, how many more threats are there? You know what I mean? Like Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And Dawn Trail was kind of bringing that back. And I felt like they did a pretty good job with it, all things considered. But a lot of people were saying, okay, well, we don't want any world-ending threats. And then they don't give you a world-ending threat. And they're like, wow, this sucks. Our hero's capable of so much more. And it's like, well, no shit. Like, I don't know. There was a lot of criticisms in Dawn Trail saying that you weren't the main character, Wook Lamont was, and it's like, okay, it's the same in Stormblood. That's kind of why that one had a lukewarm reception, because Lise was the focus, not you. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that. Maybe I would care more if I was actually into the lore, or if I gave a shit more about characters, which I kind of don't, to be fair. Because I know a lot of people were saying that there was like inconsistencies with some characters, like personalities as opposed to the other, and I'm just like, I never looked that deep, if I'm being completely honest with you. Like, all I cared about was how Wook Lamont grew as a character. I didn't care about how her brother did, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like he wasn't the focus for me, but a lot of people did give a shit about that. I like the Game of Thrones thing with Zeralja. I thought like once that picked up, I kind of got my attention again. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was good. I will say the story now with like the Arcadia, I kind of don't give a shit about, if I'm being honest. I don't know. It's the same with like Warhammer. I'm not a lore guy. I know enough to get by, but I just don't really follow stories like that. I care more about the gameplay aspect, and that's the thing I think that really, really hooked me is the combat in 14, because it starts off just like every other MMO. And I know a lot of criticisms with 14 is the fact that it has a longer global cooldown. I think WoW is like 1.2, right, for globals?
I think so.
Yeah, Final Fantasy.
But I did notice it was a lot longer.
Yeah, in Final Fantasy, I think it's 2.4 base, so like double the time.
Something like that.
Yeah, but like, and the game still delivers a really fast-paced combat, even with that high of a global cooldown. The classes are unique, and they are expanded upon in a very good way in terms of like how they're represented. And I think like the biggest selling point for me was when you can make one character and have every class under that character, rather than having to make one class characters like you would in WoW, you know, and like consistently upgrade a character back to full, then okay, that's my paladin, then log off, go into my next character, upgrade him to full. No, your one character holds every class in the game, and that is like incredible to me. So much like Lili was saying how they're goal oriented, same with me in Final Fantasy 14. I see something like a relic weapon and I will devote 14 hours to it. You know what I mean? Same with like having all my classes leveled to cap. I try to do that as much as I can. So I was at a point where I had every character at level 80 when that was the max rank, because I could, you know what I mean? Like I could do that, and I did, and I was an Omni tank at the time. So yeah, I think 14.
One thing I wanted to point out: are we all tank players?
I think so.
I think all three of us are tank players.
I got pushed out of fucking healer because I started off as as a white mage.
Yeah.
And then we had a couple other friends that started playing the game, and they're like, "I want to do white mage. I want to heal." And I was like, "Fuck, fine, I'll go to DPS." I was thinking about like trying out Ninja next, anyways.
Yeah.
So I went on to Ninja, and then we start getting into raiding and like not savages. I think we were getting into extremes, at least at that point. Yeah. And I was like, I guess I'm gonna have to tank. So I leveled up my tank, and I basically became a tank main. I kind of like it more than the other two. I mean, I like Ninja a lot, but I don't know. It's just there's something about playing. Maybe it's Paladin, because I've enjoyed Paladin a lot more than I've enjoyed Dark Knight personally. Because I first started playing Dark Knight, and I enjoyed tanking. But then once I got into Paladin, I was like, man, Paladin's just so fucking cool, man.
Yeah,
and Paladin is one of those classes.
Yes, I'm a tank main now.
Yeah,
but
Paladin's one of those classes lately that, kind of going back to the global cooldown thing, because that's a point of contention I hear a lot. At level 100 where we're at right now, Paladin is a really busy class. Like they are consistently pressing buttons because they ride the global cooldown a lot with like their Sequitur combo or whatever. But then they have like Scorn, Circle of Scorn, and all that to be pressing in between. Like that class is kind of crazy. But I want to get into the point that like, so you got into Final Fantasy the same time I did because we all did together, but you didn't play it like I did. Like you played it, I think, for a couple months, and then you dropped it for like 5 years, and then you finally came back. But what I kind of wanted to ask was, I remember telling you that like once you get through have a Realm Reborn and everything, and you get to do extremes, the game is so much more fun because you're finally like facing a challenge. Did you feel like that was the case when we first did what's that fucker's name? The bird?
For sure. And the sad part is because I had like that, like I guess in my mind, I just skipped through the story, which I guess a Realm Reborn story is kind of whatever. And I guess when I saw that, I was like, people talk about this game's story like insane. And at that time, I didn't know that A Realm Reborn was like, once you get into the expansions, that's when the story is like really fucking good. Yeah, exactly. Starting with Heavensward.
Yeah.
So I fucking tried my best to just go through, you know, the story and blast through it so I can catch up to you, and then we can start raiding and stuff like that. So I ended up, I guess it was like tough for me. You know, I kind of got burnt out because like there's a lot. It takes like a while to, you know, get through that stuff, and you know, just doing all these like fetch quests, not caring about the story. Which, like I said, now I'm sad because like reading stuff on like Heavensward and
did you
Shadowbringers and Walker, it's like, damn, bro, if I paid attention, I probably would love this way more than I did when I was going through it.
There's a card in the Final Fantasy set that pulled at people's heartstrings based on a pivotal moment in Heavensward. I think it was called like Broken Shield or something. It's like the art is like a shield.
With Hashifant,
yeah, and they added the
right?
quote when he dies in the game that a smile better suits a hero, and I was like, damn, bro, they really did you dirty. They just like they keep poking that fucking bruise. They're just like, hey, remember, he's dead.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but
yeah, like it's like that thing, like you said, where it's just like, once I got into like the end game, where you said where you really get into your class and the combat of, you know, the game, that's when I really started enjoying it. And when part of the reason I guess didn't get into WoW is at the time I also had a bunch of friends, my friends in high school, Lili included in that group, and all of you guys played fucking WoW pretty much.
You did. Yep.
And I remember, and that's probably my fault, but at that point in time, because I was a lot more introverted than I am now at that point in time. And I remember you guys like, oh, you should try WoW and like get in with us. And you know, the thing that brings me into MMOs is the playing with my friends aspect. The fact that, you know, we can form a team and do stuff like raiding and stuff, and it's like intense. And it's like, you know, very team oriented. Everybody's got a role to play, and you know, you notice it when people aren't like pulling their weight, which is cool to me. And I remember playing it, and I wasn't really, I guess, into the story. And I mean, most MMOs have this issue where like the base game / early story is kind of like whatever, and the quests you're doing are like whatever. You know, and I was trying to get into it to play with you guys, and you guys were already like max level at this point and everything, so it was basically me just having to grind through the game to get to that point, and I'm just like, there's so much for me to go through, and like, I just kind of fell off at that point, and I did the same thing with Final Fantasy. To be fair, too, it wasn't until Dan was just like kind of almost forced me to get through it to play with him.
6 years later, asshole. It was your idea. Yeah. It was your idea.
I know. But like, I mean, I guess the same thing happened with WoW, and I like, you know, I didn't really go back to trying it and you know, playing it again. But
do you think the fact that you were a Final Fantasy fan got you more into 14 than something like WoW would have?
I definitely wanted to get more into 14 because I've like reading a lot of the stuff online of like people really liking that game. And then also it being a Final Fantasy game, like you said, definitely gave me more motivation. And also, Dan always in my ear, like, level up, play. You know, it's just like, whereas with WoW, it was like, oh, it's cool if you can get into the game, but nobody was pressuring me because you guys are respectable human beings.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
No. I didn't. Listen, you threw me into this fucking wormhole that ended up eating like 3,000 hours of my life. You don't get to walk away from that.
I know. I know. And that's part of the thing that also made me want to play Final Fantasy, is like seeing how much you got into it, where you, like I said, like from what I've known, you were always kind of like curious about MMOs, and you've tried a couple other ones, but you didn't get into it. But then, all of a sudden when you like, because at the time you were like you were in Africa, right?
Yeah, I was doing savage raiding for Shadowbringers in like fucking African internet. Like, dude, my ping was like I want to say like a steady 300, and I was still clearing raids. Yeah, I was a fucking god tank.
Yeah, so at that time you didn't really get on Discord a lot. So when you did, you already had like an obscene amount of hours in that game.
Yeah, that's all I played.
You basically, you basically went from like, I'm playing the game to like, fully in there with like, relic weapons, like savage.
Yeah, I had a static.
And then hearing that, I was like, oh shit. So
yeah, I was like, and I remember even when I went back to the States and I moved to my new apartment, like I remember playing League with you guys, and then they'd be like, yo, Dan, get out of Fountain. And I'm like, oh, sorry, I was crafting. Like, I was so hooked on the game that I was like, even when I was playing other games, I was just on the other tab, like fucking doing something in Final Fantasy. That game ate my life up, dude. It still kind of does. It did for like when we were raiding in Dawn Trail. It was all I was playing was 14, but
yeah,
I think it could definitely.
So seeing that's kind of what like made me want to really get into it and stuff. It's not like I like hate WoW or anything. Like I have something against WoW. Like honestly, if I would consider even trying WoW at some point, now that I actually like played an MMO and know how to like kind of grind on the side and get through things. I would not have an issue with trying WoW again at some point.
I don't think I would.
To encourage you even more, the leveling process in WoW is really, really easy and really, really fast.
Okay. Because that's one thing about Final
have to
Fantasy
play
is
through
like
every X pack.
it takes
forever.
With Final Fantasy now, you have to get through.
It takes forever. And
like
that
there's
was
skips,
the main
obviously.
reason I stopped playing Final Fantasy.
Yeah, there's skips obviously, but then it's like once you skip to like the level that you bought the skip for, you're like, there's so many fucking abilities on my character. How the fuck do I like? You have to like sit there and like really like get to know your character, because Final Fantasy over time, you get those abilities, and over time you're like, oh cool, that I upgraded this combo.
How it works,
exactly, and then you like you get a nice deep understanding of your class. But then like getting any skips is like, I mean, because I remember buying a skip for Monk, which is
bad idea.
Monk is exactly Monk is one of the more intensive classes in the game. And I had to like study videos and read
that class is
so many I read so many guides and stuff to understand, because that class has like, unironically, I think it's like 4 to like 6 different what's the terminology for it?
Rotations?
When you rotations, but like the at the point when you're buffed. What's the time for it?
Like buff windows and stuff?
I guess buff windows. Yeah, I don't know why I couldn't think of that. But you have like 4 different rotations and like 2 I think it's like 4 different like buff windows. Yeah,
because you have your
and you have to do
with Brotherhood of Fire, and then the other one with like wind or something, because you get more weapons.
Yeah,
or something. Yeah, Monk is crazy.
Yeah, and it's because like the way like your
mantras line up.
The mantras line up and everything. So like there's times where it's like, oh, you have to do like double white instead of double black, something like that.
Lunar
It's been a while since I played
solar
Monk.
seals, right? Isn't that what they're called?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like depending on like it, because I remember it was like minute 1 and 3 buff windows, and then minute 2 and 4 buff windows, and you had a different rotation for each one, basically.
Yeah, on top of keeping up,
because you would set it up for like. You would set it up for your main buff window where you have all your buffs at once, and you had to like set it up like that so then you can do I think it was double lunar seals, that gave you the most damage, something like that. You wanted to do that twice within the buff window. It was a lot, but once you get it down, it was really cool. And I guess I want to call out our raid lead when we were doing Dawn Trail, because he was always top DPS and doing call outs and like all that stuff while playing fucking Monk in Savage
Spig
Raids,
is a
which is fucking crazy to me.
Yeah. I really like our static. I told Spig I intend to come back when my schedule is a little bit more free.
Yeah.
And right now it kind of is. The problem is that I kind of burnt out from the game from doing so much raids. And they kind of like I told them like, hey, feel free to replace me this set of raids, and I'm sure eventually I'll go back to talking with them, but it's just like it went from burning out IRL from work to burning out in Final Fantasy, and now I'm just like, I'll probably wait till the next 4 come out. I think I'll skip this.
For
tier.
me, I like the group a lot.
Yeah,
right?
the group is awesome,
and it's cool that we have people that we can somewhat consistently raid and stuff. Obviously, everybody there's adults and stuff, so we have different times we can play and everything. What I guess burnt me out was like I was getting kind of burnt out on Final Fantasy. Yes, like you said, I didn't play as much as you, but it's like there was a lot of other games I wanted to play, right? And to keep up with the Savage, I had to put in time off of that. The thing that like kind of got me off about the static was we didn't prog as much as I think we should have.
Yeah, we were on,
and I don't want to like brag, right?
Yeah.
Because I know I'm not the best in terms of like my damage output and stuff, but I would get down the mechanics somewhat fast, right? Where it's just like, oh, I do the mechanic a couple times, I got it down. But there'd be whole nights where we can't get past like a mechanic, and it's like now we have to wait until next week, and then try again, and it's just like for me like the progression was a little too slow with our static, where I was just like, man, like I would really enjoy this more if we could like prog and then like just hit that point where it's like, okay, after a couple weeks, we're like, after 1 month maybe, we have like 2 or 3 of the fights down and stuff, and like now every week we can just run through all 4 and that's it, right? But we never really got to that point.
Yeah, like the
like,
occasional mistake on a mechanic is fine, but like it got to the point where we were just kind of like we were what was it? Electropes 4 or something on MS4.
Yeah, stuff like that. We're just like,
and I also don't like, I mean, this isn't exclusive to this static, it's exclusive to every static. I don't like sitting after a wipe and being like, spending 20 minutes talking about who fucked up where, like to a degree, not to where it's productive, but you're kind of just trying to assign blame. Like that to me is counterproductive to the sake of progging, which is why I'm always just like, all right, I'm pulling. I'm pulling. I don't care about this discussion. Let's go, right? Because you can sit there and try to like, point blame at somebody else or like try to and understand the mechanic in your own way. But like usually experience and seeing the mechanic and trying the mechanic out is what will get you there. Because if you try to like play it in your head without a good way to like visualize it, you're not going to get past this mechanic, right? And I hate when people just kind of sit there pre-pull talking about like, well, no, you're supposed to stand there, but you stood here. And it's like, well, did I? No, because it actually did this. And the guy's like, wait, did it do that? All right, guys, pull. Let's just try this again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I think some of that is like necessary, too, so. Like with some of the people we had where they just didn't get the mechanic.
But that's fine. That's what I'm saying. Like,
and that's the thing that kind of was like I guess that like was weird to me. It's like, dude, we've done this like 15-20 times tonight, and it's like like you're still making the same mistake, right? And like I said, I love those people. They're great people. They're fun to hang out with, and they're good Final Fight. Like once we get down a fight, it was like for the most part, maybe we'd mess up once or twice the next week or
like
something.
Honeybee,
we would like consistent clear, like for the most part. So like there was a lot of struggle to get through it, but then we would consistently clear it. The thing is, the struggle unfortunately took up most of the time that we had, and stuff. When it's just like that's the thing that I was just like, do I want to spend this much time doing this when there's a lot of these other games coming out that I want to devote to, or like things like this podcast and writing music on the side, playing Magic, stuff like that was just like, I unfortunately was just taking too much, in my opinion, for me, too much of my like free time, more time than I wanted to devote
Yeah.
to it. You know.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So-
mine was just for me was work. Like I was every single time we wanted to
Yeah.
progress when I was at work, and I was like, well,
Yeah.
but it is what it is.
All right. Well, to switch gears real quick. Well, Lily, tell us about WoW and why you got into WoW and stuff. Why you like WoW over other MMOs you've played, or you've connected to it over others. Because you said you've played stuff like ESO, the Old Republic. You even tried Final Fantasy
yes.
14 with us.
I
Couldn't
have
get into it.
played
So
9 MMOs.
Jesus.
just cool.
ESO, Star Wars: The Old Republic, Guild Wars 2, RuneScape, Star Wars Galaxies, Lord of the Rings Online, DC Universe
Oh,
Online.
I did play a little bit of DC
and then
Universe
Final
Online.
Fantasy 14 and WoW.
Yeah.
Those are all the MMOs that I've played, unless you count Club Penguin.
No.
Um,
I'd count it.
so you count it. I think so. I started playing World of Warcraft in Wrath of the Lich King, just like Dan. I was 12. I was
Yeah.
I did not have a sub, so I was free to play. I remember I was a hunter. I was a dwarf. I had a little lake where I shot Leopleurodons, and I sold the skins to vendors. And that was all that I did, and I thought it was the best thing ever. And at the end of Wrath of the Lich King, the next expansion, Cataclysm, comes out. And one of the things they did to the world of World of Warcraft with Cataclysm was they blew up a bunch of shit because Deathwing went around and set shit on fire and reformed the world. And the lake that I was fishing was destroyed by Deathwing.
Jesus.
So I was like, what the hell is this? And I stopped playing for like 6
My lake.
years. Yeah, my lake was gone. I was like, I don't know what to do anymore. This sucks. So I stopped playing the game. And then in high school, in I think it was about like senior year, during Warlords of Draenor is when the high school group started a guild, and we all started playing. I think I was Fire Mage, and Andy was tanking until Andy didn't want to tank anymore. And then I took over as Warrior Tank. And Warrior Tank at the time was really, really broken. So how bad I was because I was 17 or 16 didn't matter. And then I played WoW for about 2 years. I played through WoD, through like all of WoD I think I played. And then I played Legion. I had to switch classes because Protection Warrior had been nerfed into the ground because they were broken. I don't remember what class I even switched to, honestly. But I did play most of Legion. But the guild had fallen apart pretty much. Like, no one was really playing WoW except me. So I kind of just did my own thing. And then Battle for Azeroth came out, which was garbage. And I stopped playing after like the second week of Battle for Azeroth is when I quit. I did not come back until I heard about Dragonflight. It looked cool. I liked the changes that were coming. And I played a little bit with my friends. It's kind of the same group, but a little bit different. I was hunting. I was playing Hunter. My laptop stopped opening WoW for some reason.
Yeah.
Time.
And I was the top or second DPS in the raids at the time for the guild that we had. But we were only going with 10 people. In WoW, you can have a minimum of 10, or you can go up to 30 for raids. So we had 10, but since I literally couldn't play the game anymore, the raid group kind of fell apart and then the guild disintegrated. I came back in season 3 of Dragonflight. I was pretty much alone. I locked in Guardian Druid, and I played an enormous amount of World of Warcraft. I played so much. I did Mythic Plus, Mythic Dungeons on my own, with pugs. I did pretty well because Guardian Druid was kind of not that great at the time. Like meta-wise, it was okay, but it wasn't like broken or anything. I had missed the season where it was broken. Season 2, Guardian Druid was overpowered as hell. And I did okay. I had a lot of fun. I actually was leading my own guild at that point.
That's cool.
My guild at that time, it is since I think it's either dead or like mostly dead. It was an LGBT, almost entirely trans guild, and incidentally, most of my guild members were also furries. That was not intentional.
Huge.
It just sort of happened. I didn't feel like recruiting, and I told my officers, I don't care about recruiting. If you want to do it, it's fine, but I don't care. So my recruiters were furries, so they kept recruiting furries into the guild. And I was like, I don't really care. I didn't really care.
Did you find yourself like liking the guild aspect of it?
I I had never like the guilds I'd been in before. Right, the first one in high school, it was just there's like 6 people and all of our alts, so it wasn't really a
Yeah.
guild. We didn't really do anything except like heroic
Yeah.
dungeons. But the one that I was in later, was like more of a real guild. We had individual raid leads, we had Mythic Plus push
Mhm.
groups, we had like officers and everything, but I wasn't any of them. I was just the hunter that showed up the most consistently to raids and did a lot of
Yeah.
damage. And also I was the one with the lava mammoth
Mhm.
pets. Everyone really, that was one of the things I was known for. It was my lava
I guess
mammoths.
what I'm asking is like, did you
Um,
did you feel like being part of a guild like enhanced your gameplay experience, especially with randos?
it allowed me to actually play the game
So
because
it was more like a means to an end. Okay.
yeah, because when you play alone, I had never played like a normal raid, because in World of Warcraft we have looking for raid, where you can queue
Yeah.
for it, but normal, heroic, and mythic you can't queue for. You have to find groups that will accept you and or make your
Yeah.
own. So when you're in a raid, the raid can organize that, but when you're not, you have to find a group that will let you
Mhm.
in. And as a tank player, it can be easy to find groups like that, right? Because World of Warcraft has a massive tank shortage because of what tanking entails in World of Warcraft. It kind of sucks.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. Um, unless you have the amount of hours that I have in tanking, which I know how to do the game. I know how to play the game now. I know how to manipulate mobs and stuff. So tanking is pretty easy for me. But it's intimidating for new players. And in the guild that I'm in right now, I just became an officer.
Mhm.
Um, and I was like proposing like, hey, what I can do tank workshops. I can help the players that we get learn how to play tank. And I also am now the Mythic Plus officer. So that's like my job in my guild now. But yeah, being in a guild makes World of Warcraft playable. I mean, even when I was running my guild and I was playing a lot of Mythic Plus, I was literally the only one in my guild who played the game at that level,
Yeah.
like very seriously. The rest of my guild was very casual, very relaxed. It was mostly like an RP guild. I mean, the guild I'm in right now is technically an RP
Mhm.
guild, with a raid night and occasionally Mythic Plus groups for them.
Yeah. I
But
guess like because the reason that I ask is
like,
because I think one of the biggest
mhm,
aspects about an MMO is the social aspect of it. And
yeah,
originally
Yeah.
I kind of
yeah,
didn't give a shit about it, but
Like a second life.
Yeah.
yeah,
Almost,
but then I remember
yeah,
like when I first got into the game, like when I was 6 years ago when I was in Shadowbringers, I like
mhm,
met a lot of people that I would still consider friends to this day. Granted, I probably don't talk to them as
yeah,
much, but like my original guild, I was
right,
in that Discord more than I was in the Discord that we're all in, like my actual real life friends.
yeah.
To the point like when I popped in, they were like, "What the fuck?" Like it's been like 3 months. Where were you? I was like, "Oh, I was playing Final Fantasy with my other friends." And even now, like
Yeah,
the static that
when
we have
mhm,
that me and Mike joined, I would still pop in there and talk to them sometimes. Like I would still consider them really close
right,
friends. Um, I there was days where I would just sit there and talk to people in Ul'dah or Limsa, and just chat with them. Uh, and I didn't really think that was something I gave a shit about until I started playing Final Fantasy 14 a lot, like to where I was making friends all over the
mhm,
world. So I don't
right,
know. I've heard some very, I guess, heartwarming stories about people in WoW with their guilds like meeting up in IRL and stuff like that. Like that's how close they get.
yeah.
Did you like do you think like WoW harbors that kind of community still? Because I know Final Fantasy definitely does.
yeah. I think we do. I mean, my guild talks about guild meetups all the time. It's just difficult because a lot of the people in my guild are like they have some form of disability, so they don't make any
Mhm.
money, so they can't afford to move
Yeah.
anywhere. Um, So, but yeah, we talk about it all the time. We're quite close. Most of the time that I've been spending now is either alone or like doing some WoW
Yeah, I
content with
noticed because
them.
sometimes you just
And
pop
that's
in on the
mostly because
Discord.
our server, yeah, because our server is mostly just like doing Minecraft right now, and I don't
Yeah.
care, and I don't care about Minecraft. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go do some delves with my WoW friends. I'm gonna do some heroic dungeons because we've been gearing
Yeah.
alts to do something. No one knows what we're gonna do really right now, but like that's what I've been doing a lot. I talk to them a lot. We have they've been. I mean, the guild talks about organizing certain different things all the time. It's just our guild leader has children, so they're like busy all the
Yeah. I
time.
think it's wild
Yeah.
because
So it's kind of hard to push
I
stuff.
just think it's wild how I don't know. I feel like I've had more enjoyment playing with randos than I've had playing with my IRL friends. Um,
I have had
could you
pug
say that
groups
again?
that I liked a lot. Yeah, say that
I
again.
missed that.
yeah,
cut
I said
out.
that I feel like I've had more enjoyment playing with randos like that I meet through my guilds and like become friends with than I do with my IRL friends. Maybe that's because like I mean Mike's probably the only exception because Mike consistently plays the game, but like I feel like with the other guys that try to get into Final Fantasy around the same time, like I'm out here, changing the guild, or the free company, I guess in our sense. I'm here like doing all these changes, gearing up, making stuff for them, and then they just kind of don't do anything with it. And I'm just like, well, what's the point of being a guild leader? You know what I mean? Whereas like
it's
with when I play with randos, like when we were with Spig Mike, like I'm making stuff and people are actually utilizing it. You know what I mean? Where like we had a whole little meltdown about access to the company chest for it not to matter because they stopped playing 2 days later. You know what I mean? Like I feel like
exactly
maybe people who are more devoted into the game tend to have more connection with something like a free company or a guild, and then that tends to make the game more enjoyable. You know what I mean? Because now it's like people helping each other out, and there's like a sense of community there. I don't know if that's something like I hear good things about WoW in that regard. Like but also hear that there's a lot more sweats in WoW than there is in 14.
There are, but I think it's because we have more sweaty stuff to do.
Fair.
Because you don't have Mythic Plus dungeons.
Yeah, but we have
right?
Ultimates.
I wonder.
It's just the translation basically. Because my understanding is like we have the same amount of things. It's just they're a little different. Like the only thing I think that we don't have. I think
it's more Square Enix, because Square Enix, there's like they've really focused on trying to make the community more positive.
Yeah.
So like,
I mean, Mythic Plus sounds
they're
like
not afraid to.
The thing is, Mythic Plus sounds like Ultimate raids. The thing is that like it's a loss of translation between the two games because
Mythic Pluses are dungeons.
That's
right?
what I was gonna say. Yeah, like
Yes.
Mythic Pluses are like dungeons, and we have that. I forgot what they're called, but they're like a special type of dungeon that they introduced. I think like last expansion. It's not Arcadia. It's I forget the name, but there is like a really really hard dungeon run. It's just not as popular, built upon like our Savage raids are.
Right.
Yeah. So like it's just a lot.
Is there a timer in Ultimate Dungeons? There's a timer? Okay.
Like I said, a lot of it is just kind of like, this
then,
is your difficult thing, and this is my difficult thing. They're not exactly the same on principle. Yours is a dungeon.
Right.
Mine is a boss fight that takes 3 hours. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it comes down. I think the only thing is, I've seen people play this thing on WoW, because I was introduced to it because of the whole pirate software drama, where like the permadeath thing, that sounds kind of cool. Where you like if you
like the hardcore servers.
Oh,
right?
hardcore classic.
Hardcore classic, yeah. Because when I was like reading into that and watching videos recapping what happened with that incident, I was like, I don't know anything about WoW, but I can kind of understand it because of the MMO stuff, and this looks like really interesting. But it's definitely not something we have in 14.
They have PvP servers too, right?
Yeah,
yes,
we have PvP modes, but not like dedicated servers to that.
Yeah,
I think in general, because I've played a little bit of Final Fantasy, and I've like watched you guys play like Savage raids. But I think in general the consequences for mistakes in WoW are harsher. Because if you die in a mythic raid, right? That's the highest level of content in World of Warcraft is mythic raiding. If one person in the mythic group dies, you wipe.
So I've heard this criticism a lot, right? I've heard this criticism a lot about 14 because they're like, oh, you have unlimited battle res. But more often than not, it translates to the same thing. Like if you die in so Savage is a little bit.
Well, have you done ultimate raids? Yeah.
I've done the introduction to a couple. Like I've only done I think the beginning of Bahamut.
Okay, because I was gonna say we're not even playing the highest.
Yeah, we're not in the highest. Like Savage is like the highest for like the semi-competitive guy. Like ultimates are like the ones where like if you die you're done, like that's it.
That's where all the sweats are.
Like
is ultimate
and even
rating.
and the reason that I draw this comparison is because in Savage, yes, you can get rezzed after you die, but that run is done. Like because we've seen it. Like
when we were doing Savage raids.
Once you get weakness,
one or two people,
you're not making that. You're not making that check. Like you're done. Between weakness or between the fact that like you can really only afford 2 reses before you just run out of mana and can't res anymore. Like the sake of battle res is more for prog than anything else. I feel like in a lot of raids,
Yeah.
once you die, you're not making the DPS check and you can just scuff it. Like, you're not making Unrage. So it's
I would
more
say it
trivial
depends. So
than
like if you
anything.
have a player like somebody like Spig who's consistently doing insane DPS,
You can make up for
then
it. Yeah.
maybe
can
like
catch up.
maybe a death or two, depending. Like if it's 2 deaths to DPSs, that's it. You're fucked, right? But
Yeah.
if you're doing like a death to the tank or a death to like maybe 1 DPS, you can recover that. But yeah, so there's a little bit of leeway there, but it's still like pretty punishing.
that's for
where
this-
like you said, Dan, like the weakness you have is like it's pretty backbreaking.
Yeah, and that's for the second hardest content. We're not even talking ultimate. Like ultimate, if you die, you're done. Like I think if you saw
Yeah.
ultimate rating, that would be the equivalent of your mythic plus, because
A
yeah,
Mythic
it gets to
Plus,
the
or a Mythic Raid.
raid. Sorry, because it's not a dungeon.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
the ultimates are like back-to-back boss fights. So since like say Unending Coil Bahamut, it was 12 raids if I remember correctly. And it's all those 12 raids condensed into one massive raid. So you're fighting like every boss that you did. Mike, to kind of draw an example for you, it would be like if you did
all doing the tiers of the Savage raids back to back.
yeah, like if you did fucking Honeybee straight into Savage Brute Bomber straight into whatever her name is, Thunder Thighs. Yeah, like it's that's what ultimates are. So they're like a lot more brutal, and you can imagine that like on this really long raid, if you die once, even if you do get a res off, you're not making checks because it's one massive fight that consistently checks you through and through. So I don't know. I think that Final Fantasy, you can argue the fact that it's more forgiving, but it's more forgiving in the sense of like think progression, because the end result is still the same. If you die, the wipe is done. The run is done. It's just the fact that you're able to see more because you're able to res and then be like, all right, we're not going to make this run, but let's figure out what lies for the next 3 minutes, and then we'll just die. You know what I mean?
So would your Savage raids more be on par with our heroic raids?
Maybe. That's the thing, is I don't have any good cross-reference. Like,
I would say they're probably not as intense as like the Mythic dungeons.
because Savage raids aren't like
Mythic Plus, I think it is, or something like that.
like Savages aren't that hard.
Because we have...
They're like the second hardest.
Yeah,
content.
I mean, that's kind of how heroic is. Because right now, I mean, I'm pretty overgeared because my sweaty is Mythic Plus. Like, I do Mythic Plus at a really high level. But when I'm like tanking heroic raid for the guild, when we tried Prague, the tank busters don't do anything to me.
Yeah. I just found it too.
So I was like, okay.
The hard mode dungeons for Final Fantasy are called Criterion dungeons. Those apparently, like, you're only limited to 1 res, but they are kind of like what I saw like in the Pirate Software situation, where you're going through an actual dungeon, pulling mobs carefully and stuff like that. That is what Criterion dungeons are for 14. So it exists. It's just not as built upon as, because it's a newer content compared to the older.
I wonder
stuff.
if they've ever considered trying to, like,
flesh it out more.
Flesh that out. And,
apparently,
like, make it more of a thing.
Apparently later in this expansion they're gonna add more.
Something they don't want to.
No, they're gonna add more in this expansion. They've already said it. They were just doing that cosmic exploration thing first. When the new Criterion.
Oh, by the way,
comes out,
I did look it up.
What's up?
Yeah.
The GCD for almost all classes in WoW, except for rogues, cat druids, and monks, is 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
For rogues, cat druids, and monks, it's 1, and then for Final Fantasy, it's 2.5.
I'm looking at it right now. My warrior, I logged in real quick. My warrior is 2.46. Well, because when we were talking about guilds, I was like, oh, I haven't.
Daniel, stop crafting.
No.
Stop crafting.
That's actually a really good idea. No, but like when we were talking about guilds, I was like, oh shit, I'm a guild lead. Oh shit, my house might get destroyed. So I logged in real quick to make sure it doesn't get destroyed.
We're actually getting housing. Finally.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about WoW and Final Fantasy, is that there is just some things that one has that the other doesn't, or one has that isn't as fleshed out in the other side. And that's what makes a lot of contention between the two. Like, I know, like, I think a lot of people talk about like transmogging is a lot easier in WoW than it is in Final Fantasy, or how the social aspect of Final Fantasy is a lot better than it is in WoW. And then like it's in a way it's kind of comparing apples to oranges. I don't think that one game is better than the other. I think the selling point for me is just like the aesthetics of it, really. Like, I like the classes of 14 more. I don't like the goofy-ish art style of WoW that much, or the world. I do like the more even though it is cartoony and anime-ish, I do like the more serious tone that 14 tends to have in terms of like its character design. Because like I look at WoW and I see like a floppy little troll with giant ears and hunched back, and I'm just like, that looks stupid. I don't like that. But then I look at like,
For me, it's
Isn't it
the
Taran?
I don't
it's
know.
the pauldrons, man. It's just
The pauldrons are ridiculous.
Yeah,
I completely agree. I spend a lot of time when I'm doing my mogs finding like right pauldrons. I mean, right now I'm kind of like flexing that I have 3K on my warrior and like intentionally not wearing armor. Like, so my mogs are just not. I don't have anything on.
Every time I see like super high end, maybe this is like, I guess, my personal experience, so it could be incorrect. But I feel like every time I see like high end gear and stuff, it's almost all the time like super crazy pauldrons, and like, you know, and the characters like are kind of like stocky, you know, cartoony, which I get. I'm not gonna bash on it. It's just not my thing.
Yeah, I mean, like there's examples of like normal armor, right? The Lich King's armor isn't even like that outrageous, but I think like
awesome.
over time they're just like, all right, let's just get a little bit more crazy because we're kind of out of ideas with our armor and how it looks. Because every season, when they release a new raid, they have to release a new armor appearance and set for that raid. So they have to like keep doing stuff. And, you know, sometimes I like it. I usually don't go for them because it takes a really long time. There is one raid set I fully grinded for my druid, which took me about a month and a half. It is really cool. If I can open WoW really quick and find it, I will send a screenshot into the
I will say
chat.
our most like bulkiest like armor and stuff has to be paladins, right? And this is probably the most egregious. Like something like this gets the most egregious, right? Like that, where you have the pauldron.
That's not even that bad though.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah,
the thing that's really like high end stuff that's a little ridiculous in Final Fantasy is like the relic weapons and stuff, where it's like the super crazy shiny you know, visual effect weapons and stuff.
Yeah,
like that's the thing that's like a little ridiculous, right? It's not for me.
That's another thing I really like
know,
about Final Fantasy is the battle effects. I think a lot of them like are really, really cool.
Oh yeah.
So like the Confidor combo for Paladin is just like, dude, what the fuck? Like, it is just really cool.
Dude, I just really fuck with like playing Paladin. I really love playing Ninja. Ooh. That looks cool. I really like playing like Ninja and like the aesthetic of playing Ninja. Like it really feels cool, like having to weave in the signs to cast.
Yeah, like mudras are so fucking cool how they implemented it into the game. It's like a half a second GCD that you have to put 3 symbols together to cast a spell.
Yeah, and if you fuck up, you fuck up. Yeah. Right? So it's like
you're basically doing a little hand
signs, the rabbit ears and
stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, with Final Fantasy, like it's at least the story. Obviously, I haven't like gone through it like I said earlier and like gone through the story, but I've read online and watched videos on it, which obviously is not a good substitute for it, but it was just to get a somewhat good understanding. Dawn Trail was the first expansion where I like actually went through and watched the cutscenes and read stuff and was like going through the story, which Dawn Trail has mixed reviews, right? But I know Stormblood is the only other one that has mixed reviews. I know Heaven's Word is very loved. Same thing with Shadowbringers and Endwalker. So like those yeah. And Endwalker was like kind of the end of that overarching arc, right? And now Dawn Trail, we're starting a new one. But I know the story. I mean, there's the meme of like, have you played Final Fantasy 14, the award-winning MMO, for its like, you know, story and stuff like that, right? There's that meme and stuff because like, you know, people really like the writing's really good and people really care about the characters and stuff. Yeah.
Same with the music.
I know the world and the lore of not only that, but I think you in particular, Lily. Like I feel like you really fuck with like the medieval aspect a lot. In Final Fantasy in general is like a mix of like tech and medieval, you know, and like you know, like so it's like a mix of that, and then like the classes are non-traditional for the most part. Like you have certain things like black mage and white mage that are more traditional, you know, fantasy classes, and paladin too, right? But then you have shit like machinist and fucking, you know, gunbreaker, stuff like that. That's like, you know, kind of out there and unique and stuff. So the aesthetic's not for everybody.
Yeah.
I fuck with it because I'm a Final Fantasy guy, so that's why I've like gravitated it towards that more than something like WoW or ESO. But yeah, I mean, if you do ever want to try it, I mean, because you've only played like the light content, and I mean, we know at this point, like like we said, the end game is, at least in terms of like playing the game, besides the social aspect, the end game is where it's at, unless you are paying attention to the story, which Final Fantasy does have.
I mean, you
had
that opinion too, Mike, because I remember when we were doing like normal raids or just like dungeon bosses, you're like, this shit just kind of feels like you're walking through something, and
it's too easy. It's way too
But then
easy.
I remember when we were doing Valley Garmalda, like once we beat it, you were like, dude, my fucking hands were shaking, like this shit was insane. Like
it was awesome, because that was like the first taste I had of like actual combat. And then it's funny now because after doing Savage raids, I'm like, dude, those extremes, besides fucking Sphene, because Sphene is surprisingly like for an extreme, Sphene is actually like, I would say Sphene is tougher than like most of the Savage raids we did in tier 1 of Dawn Trail.
Yeah, I think
like,
so.
Where I was just like, like that bridge,
Ice bridge just fucks
section,
people up.
Ice bridge, exactly. So that one is surprisingly like really tough for an extreme trial. But like, doing the extreme trials, I was like, shit. And I'm like, Savage is harder than this. And I was like, but it was exciting because I was like, damn, I can't wait. And it was like really cool, especially with the static.
Yeah,
and stuff,
I've always had to tell people when I get them into Final Fantasy, like, just like I know it sucks, but you have to bar through the content. Like it's boring, but every MMO is kind of like this. But I feel like if you're coming from WoW playing Mythic Plus and having a certain bias towards an aesthetic that you like, and then you come into Final Fantasy, you're gonna have the same experience of just like, I have to go through this shit slog, and you're already used to doing like Mythic Plus.
The shit that you've already done in WoW, and it's like, I can just go back to WoW and do the content instead of having the slog.
I like the aesthetic of Final Fantasy. I mean, I also like the aesthetic of World of Warcraft. But like for different reasons. Like I could be a cat girl in Final Fantasy.
I was just about to say that.
Like I could be a cat girl in Final Fantasy. WoW doesn't have that yet. When WoW gets cat girls, though, I will never come back to Final Fantasy. But knowing WoW, they'll probably be like more like the Tiger girls that are in Final Fantasy. Because because we just got Fox people, in Battle for Azeroth, but they're like actually like fox people, like
more furry than human.
Yeah, they're more furries. Yeah, and they're like they're like gnome size, so like really small.
What?
Yeah, they're like really tiny. Like I'll get you a picture. I don't have any Volpara, but I can get a picture of one.
I tend to not like smaller races.
I'm short enough IRL.
RPGs and stuff like dwarves, gnomes, halflings, stuff like that. I don't really fuck with. Same thing with the Lalafels in Final Fantasy. But I will say, if they ever let me play as a dwarf, a Final Fantasy dwarf, because I fuck with Final Fantasy dwarfs hard, or a fucking Loporit, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Oh, it seems like,
because I love Loporit so much.
Yeah,
I love them so much. They're so cute and adorable, and I'm like, I would love to be a Loporit. Especially as like a paladin with like huge chunky armor, and then
I will say that's like
ears.
That is the funniest part about seeing Lalafels is when they're playing like a warrior and you see them like get swarmed by a mob and you just can't even see them anymore.
Oh my god! I remember the first time, because I was healing. I remember the first time I had a goblin tank. I was like, where the hell is it?
Yeah. And Lalafels have some of the better animations for like stuff. Like they are fun.
Yeah.
Like seeing what Ricky does with his character,
like emotes wise and
with
stuff.
his Lalafell is like pretty
I
funny.
think like seeing a Lalafell as a black mage is the funniest shit in the world, because whenever you're casting, like if you have like a cape or a long coat, it like flaps in the wind because of all the power. So you see this little like fucking tiny little guy casting a giant fireball and his little cape is flapping in the wind. And I'm just like, this is so stupid, bro.
Yeah. I would love to be a Laporte or dwarf though in Final Fantasy. I fuck with them hard. So
I know what dwarves you're talking about. Yeah, I got you. Okay, I was trying to.
So that's all the time we got left. But that was fun. I enjoyed going into WoW, Final Fantasy in particular, and then talking about some other MMOs. Unfortunately, I'm going to say this so if people don't get mad in the comments or whatever, because you do play RuneScape.
I have played RuneScape. I've played a lot of RuneScape in the past. Yes,
exactly. That's one that we didn't talk about. So I just want to shout that out. We're aware of that. We're conscious. But yeah, leave a comment. Tell us what MMOs you like, which ones you couldn't get into, and you can find us at any social media with the tag at the Bonfire Nexus, or email us at thebonfirenexus@gmail.com. And I just want to say thank you, Lili, for joining us for this episode. It was fun having you on.
We should do a magic episode.
So, yes, I mean, at some point we're probably gonna have to do a magic episode. Maybe another one where, like, when Alex can't make it, we can do that, or have him on there to be the person that doesn't play Magic, and his interaction with that and stuff, because he's always been kind of somewhat intrigued by it, but we've already discussed on like a previous episode of why he hasn't gotten into it somewhat and everything. So but yeah, I would love to do a Magic episode, and maybe we get 2 guests on that, you and like Andy.
That'd be really interesting.
So yeah, that'd be cool. All right, anyways, have a great night, everybody.
Ciao.